You know, I don't actually get much time to come up here and film videos. Right, so hey everyone, and welcome back to another budget photography video. So, I have been, or was, I should say, a DSLR defender. I was one of the guys that go, I will never go mirrorless, it's not, I don't need it, Well, I went mirrorless. I went mirrorless a long time ago. And when I say mirrorless, I do mean full frame mirrorless. I don't just mean the Lumix GX7 that I had that was micro four thirds. Now my first actual mirrorless camera, as I just said, was the GX7. But my first full frame mirrorless camera was, well, this. The EOS RP from Canon. And I loved it. It is still a really good camera. But it no longer suits what I need. I needed more quality from the sensor. I didn't need necessarily more megapixels, but I needed better imaging. Now, it's not to say that this isn't a good camera, because it is. It shoots 4K at 50 FPS with a crop. But that was the problem. It had a crop, quite a considerable amount of crop at 4K. And it didn't have weather sealing. It doesn't have a high FPS burst rate. And most importantly, it doesn't have log. I'm being interfered with at the back here by a tree. As someone who is now expanding into video work, I needed log because I like to have more control over my footage rather than just what this has to offer. Now, if you are using the EOS RP, it's fine. It's a great camera for pictures. I love this little thing. I think it is really, really good. I mean, if I just take a picture here at, what is it, let's bring that down a bit more. 1/500th. Let's bring, I'm on auto ISO, I don't want that. Let's go 800 and let's open that shutter back up again to 1/60th. And we're at f7.1 because this is a non-fixed lens. And let's just take a picture of the setup just here. There we go. So as you can see, that picture is really nice. It is. And all pictures from this camera are really good. And, you know, the same with its video. But as someone who has paying clients, I needed more room. And I also needed dual SD card slots because of redundancy. So, what did I pick? Well, you all already should know. I picked the EOS R6. Why not the R5? Well, frankly, because the shop that I brought this from didn't actually have the R5 and I couldn't justify it. I can now, and I am planning on buying an R5, but I couldn't justify at the time, and they also didn't have it in the shop. So there's that. On a little side note, before we actually go into the rest of the review for this video, for the future, for pictures, I am actually thinking of changing systems. Big shock, I know. I'm actually thinking of changing systems. As much as it pains me to say this, as a loyal Canon lover, I'm thinking of dipping my toe into the Sony range. Yeah, no, it wasn't for photos, it was for videos, because I'm having loads of problems with Canon's autofocus. Especially in one of my last reviews that I filmed. I don't know when it's going to come out. It might come out before or after this video. So in the 17 to 40 millimeter review video, I don't know what it's called yet. I haven't actually edited it yet. So I had loads of focusing problems with that lens, and I also had problems with the, do I have it with me? No, I don't. The 24 to 105 lens. So it's not, and I've always kind of had problems with the R6 and it's focusing, and it's on the latest firmware, and that is actually one of the bad points. It's the latest the latest firmware. And actually we can use that to get into the review. Because yes, that is one of the bad points of this camera that I'm filming on right now. The Canon EOS R6, where's my microphone? There it is. Its focusing isn't the best. I mean, it's good. It really is. I should be in focus now. I'm looking at the screen, my monitor at the top here, and I am apparently in focus. If I come out of the frame fully, and then if I go, let's go up here. Am I in focus? Am I in focus? I don't know. I can't see from back here. Oh yes, I've just come into focus. That's really good. I like that. That is good. But I had loads of problems with this yesterday when I was filming. Now, as I've already said, this camera shoots 4K at up to 50 FPS and 1080p at up to 100 FPS, which is really, really good. And especially the fact that both are in C-Log. Now, unfortunately, with the 100 FPS slow-mo, there is no audio, meaning if you want to speed bracket and use audio from it, you can't, you just can't. Now, because this is, well, a Canon camera, the colors are amazing, amazing. They really are. They are really nice. And the files are really nice to work with. The C-Log files, because it's been around for a while, just import straight into Final Cut Pro and Premiere Pro. As far as I'm aware, I don't use Premiere Pro, I use Final Cut. And it's exactly the same with Lightroom. The photos just import into Lightroom and they are so easy to work with. Editing pictures from this camera and color grading is really easy and nice. I mean, here, look, this is the log. This is the original file right here is what I'm looking at in my monitors. I've got two of them, as you saw from the other picture. And now there's a color grade. What is the Canon R6 actually like to use? Well, it's pretty damn good. It's a hybrid. It is good at both. It is not best at video, it is not best at photos. It is in the middle, and that inlines kind of its problems because it's not a video camera, but it's also not a photo camera. Ow, I just hit the stinging nails. It's not, it's not both of them. So it is in the middle. So it hasn't got, you know, the video specs of the R5, for example, or the Sony A7 ranges. But what the R6 actually is a 1DX. Yes, it's a 1DX. It shares the same processor, the same image sensor, the same image processing as the 1DX. And it also, most importantly for me, has the same burst rate as the 1DX. Now, compared to the 1DX, it does have its downfalls, such as, for example, it hasn't got as good of a weather sealing. It does have weather sealing here on the R6, but it's not as good as the 1DX range or the R3, for example. And it also doesn't have the same battery life. It doesn't have them really big batteries that you would get in a 1DX. It uses, amazingly, this uses the LPE6 battery. And now they have added some extra numbers and letters on that I'll put down below here somewhere, because I can't remember the name of the battery. I just know it's the LPE6 battery, meaning if you have any cameras that are already using that battery, such as a 5D or a 6D range, then your batteries will work with this camera. I use third-party batteries on this camera, except for the one that's in there right now. This is an original OEM Canon battery, and the battery life is really, really good. It's not amazing. Again, it is not a 1DX replacement, but the battery life on this camera is really nice. When I'm out shooting events, when I'm recording for, constantly 4K C-Log, just, batch after batch after batch, because when I'm recording events, I don't use this anymore as the video camera. That is now the job of the R6. The RP for me has become a B cam, and it's usually used for photography because the 24 megapixels are really good. Now I want to talk about kind of the elephant in the room, and that is overheating. There was some controversy when these cameras came out, the R6 and the R5, of overheating. Now, I've had this camera now for a decently long time, and I actually, as I said, I batch recorded for a whole day in the summer heat, filming at 4K C-Log 50 FPS. And it got warm, it did get warm, and you would expect it to get warm, but it never had overheating. I'm not saying the overheating issues don't exist, I'm saying I didn't experience overheating. The overheating issues are well documented. It is a risk that you take when you use one of these cameras. I don't know why. I think it's because Canon was so excited to want to push the you know, the 8K of the R5 and the 4K 50 of this, that they didn't really pay attention to thermals and kind of shot themselves in the foot. But as I said, with the latest updates that I've had, this update now that I'm on and the previous one, I've had no problems. I have had no problems. Even when recording batch after batch after batch of videos on long days in the summer heat, and it's in direct sunlight. That's not to say, as I've already said, it does get warm. It just doesn't overheat for me. Now, I want to bring up a downside. I said in that last part about batch recording. That's because this will only record for up to half an hour, and then it stops and then continues automatically, which is nice, but it still stops. It doesn't have an unlimited record time. Now, from what I've heard, that is to do with the EU. So I kind of wish that Canon would be like, hey, come on, can we have the unlimited recording? Now, apparently no country gets unlimited recording. Even on the R5, you can only record at about half an hour to 12 minutes, something like that. Which I kind of get to an extent, but also I kind of wish they didn't do that, because it's like, it's 2024 and Sony cameras and other companies have been doing this for a long while. Now, if I remember correctly, the reason that they do this, they do the limited recording time, is because of the EU's rule on if anything has over half an hour or over 12 minutes or something like that, it is classed as a cinema camera, and it's a different tax bracket for shipping or something like that. I'm not 100%. Please double check. Please make sure that the right information is getting out. If you do know, please leave it in the comments below. And if you don't know, have a look in the comments below or have a look on Google. Maybe I'll link something in the description, maybe, if I remember. There's no guarantee. Now, this, of course, being a hybrid camera, we need to talk about, well, the other part. I've spoken about all the video stuff, and now we need to talk about, well, the photos. And there's not a lot to really say about it. The images are 20 megapixels. They are the typical Canon colors. They are really nice to edit, as I've already said. They're really easy to import into Lightroom. The images are really, really nice. They're crisp, they're sharp. They're just really good. Do I wish it had more megapixels? Yes, I really do. I wish it had more. But also, I can see why they haven't, because they've just brought the sensor from the 1DX range and shoved it in a smaller body, which is fine for me. It really, really is. Now, I can't talk about images or this camera in general, actually, without mentioning the lens mount, because this does use the RF mount. Now, you can get RF lenses, and I've got one just here. This is the 24 to 105 f4 to f1.7, and it's an okay lens. It's kind of a kit lens, and I think I've done a review on this quite recently, and it's okay. Now, I haven't had the ability or the chance to be able to test any of Canon's higher range lenses, their RFL lenses, but I have had the chance to buy EF-L lenses with a Canon adapter. So RF to EF mount, or EF to RF. I never get which way it's meant to go round. EF to RF? No, it's RF to EF. Anyway, I'm currently using the 17 to 40 f4L on this current model right now, and the images still look really, really nice. I've actually currently got all of my lenses, except for this one down here, are EF lenses. I've got the 300 f4, yes, they're all f4 by the way, the EF 300mm f4, a 70-200 f4, and a 24-105 f4, and the 17-40 f4, and what else have I got? Have I got anything else? Oh, and I've got an EF 50mm 1.8. It's the cheap one that you can buy, and it's good. It's decent lens, and that is what I would recommend you do, is to buy EF lenses, because they are still beautiful lenses, and you can pick them up for an amazing price. You really can. This lens that I'm filming on cost me £196. £196 for an L lens. There is a review coming of this lens in a few days, or it might already be out, I don't know. And the 24-105 that I used to film on all the time for the last 4 or 5 years is amazing. It is an absolute tank and a workhorse of a lens. I absolutely love it. I don't use it as much anymore because I prefer this much wider frame, because there's just more of me. Because at 24mm, if I just come down here and just zoom in to 24mm, you can see that when I go back to sitting where I was, I'm kind of cut off. I'm missing part of my head. So I prefer this one personally. Now, that doesn't mean that you obviously can't buy RF glass, but they are going to be expensive. Will they look much better? To an extent, yes. RF glass will always look better on an R6 or an R range camera, purely because they are designed for mirrorless cameras. These EF glasses are designed for DSLRs, or digital single lens reflex cameras. Will an RF lens look better on an R camera? Of course it will. It just will, because they are designed for that body, whereas EF glass isn't designed for an R mount. They are designed for DSLRs. They are designed for the 1DXs. They are designed for the 5Ds, the 6Ds, the 30Ds, the 70Ds, the 7D, whatever. And the benefit of buying EF glass over RF is the fact that there's more of them at the moment. There is a massive second-hand market for EF glass second-hand, because people are now switching, professional photographers are now switching from EF to the RF range, meaning they've got lots of lenses to get rid of, and they need to get rid of them quickly and preferably cheaper. So you can pick up the lenses really, really cheaply, and that's exactly what I intend to do. Although there are a few RF lenses that I am looking at replacing, like the 70-200. I do want the 70-200 in RF rather than my EF one. Anyway, that's not the point. If you're buying one of these, you're investing in a future system, because the camera is replaceable to an extent. I mean, yeah, so are lenses, but you can spend thousands of pounds, sorry, on a body. I mean, for example, this one cost me about £2,000 when I brought it a few months back. Now, I'm sure they're probably a lot cheaper, and actually the R6 Mark II is already out as I'm making this video. But you can get lenses that are £4,000, £5,000 or even £6,000. So remember, you're not just buying a camera, you're buying a system. So if you're spending all your time and money on EF lenses, then you're not really investing in the future system. EF lenses will be around for 30, 40 years, so you will probably be fine. But there are limitations to it. It has focusing issues. They really do, especially these ultrasonic ones that I'm using right now. I've had to use my phone as a monitor because the tilty flippy screen is unreliable. So I'm currently using my S23 Ultra as a wireless monitor, and it's got major delay. Like, hang on a second, right, if I raise my arm, it's still not right, there we go. It took a whole second, or at least half a second, for it to catch up. So there is a major delay, but I have to use it because I need to make sure that the little white box is around my face, and it's now moved to my hand. Can I put it back on my face? Come on, focus, there we go. It's back on my face now, at least it should be. Is it back on my face? Let's just, yeah, that'll do. So I need to be able to see that box, and I can't do it on this little tiny LCD. Now, when I was using the EOS RP that I have here in my hand, it was nice feeling, but I've got big hands, as I've said many times. I used to be a rock climber. I'm now too big for that. Anyway, but I've got big rock climber hands. And while the grip on the RP was nice, and you know, it's nice and deep here, I mean, I could get my hands right wrapped around it and grip the camera, it wasn't very fat. Whereas the EOS R6, on the other hand, is a bigger camera. It's bigger because it's fitting a bigger battery in it. And it's also accommodating more of a processing power. The buttons are better laid out. There is a function button that you can change to anything you like at the bottom by the lens, just in reach of your finger while you're shooting like that. Everything about this camera is good. The feel in the hand is good. The video is good. The images are good. There's no real downsides to the R6, especially now that the R6 Mark II has come out, meaning you're going to get more off the price. You're saving more money. Now, that's not to say this is not a budget camera. I'm making this video because I enjoy using this camera, and it is one of the tools that I use nigh on daily with work and on YouTube. This camera will still set you back between £1,000 and £2,000, so it isn't really a budget camera, but for its capabilities and what it can offer as a photographer who is coming up, and a photographer, sorry, who is looking to get into video, who knows already how to work Canon and wants to, yeah, get into video. Does it have its downfalls? Yes. Could it have more megapixels? Do I think it should have more megapixels? Yes, I wish it really did have more megapixels, but it doesn't, so that's okay. Do I wish it shot more than 4K? Yes, I do. Do I actually wish the files on the C-Log was a little bit bigger with more detailing? Yes, I do. But for the price that you pay and what you get, the R6 is a great camera and I absolutely love it. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me in this video. See you in the next one.